broadcasting live from our studio in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. The Natatorium and the Six Dolphins of John Jay Garlick is a forthcoming documentary by filmmaker Oliver Franklin Anderson. The film explores the bizarre rise and fall of Milwaukee's Public Natatorium, a 1970s bathhouse-turned-dolphin dinner theater that defied logic, ethics, and gravity. I'd like to welcome filmmaker Oliver Anderson, musical director Alex Drossart, and Sam Farrell to Fox City's Core. How are you guys doing today?
Really good. Thanks for having us.
Good. This film is very intriguing to me. I've been super intrigued with this film.
What's the most intriguing aspect that you've heard of the
The thing that I think intrigues me the most is that, without giving too much away too early here, that something like this existed and then can all of a sudden fall out of public conscious, and then like somebody like you comes along and kind of revives the story, and it's one of those interesting things that I just find fascinating, and especially today, and like where it's hard to find history that's forgotten about because there's so many social medias and different things like that. How did you find out about this story?
I found out about it in 2018. There were two filmmakers in Milwaukee who tried to make a documentary on it earlier, and there was an article on the Natatorium and their attempts to make a doc on it. And some years passed, and in 2022, I knew the two guys, and I was like, well, what happened with this project? And they had more or less abandoned it for something else. And I was like, well, I'm really interested in it. I would love to take it over if I can have your permission. And they gave me their first story lead, which was one of their father-in-laws was a chef there, Dale Krueger. I interviewed Dale, and I started getting names, and it just kind of snowballed. And I had this like hunch that there was more to this story, and I just kind of kept pulling this like thread, and things just kept coming up. There'd be like, I've been at this for 3 years. There'd be a few dead months, where like nothing's happening, and then suddenly like 3 or 4 things would just happen. I'd find 3 or 4 people who work there, or an artist who worked there, or somebody who's a busboy or a dolphin trainer. It's just really crazy, and like you said earlier, it is kind of memory hold. It's a very uncomfortable film in a lot of ways. It's garish and kind of beautiful, and also very horrifying from like an animal welfare aspect, and all these things kind of come together into this like uniquely Wisconsin thing that's almost entirely forgotten. And I'm trying to frame it as like a Gothic, like a Wisconsin Gothic tale. The memory of it, it's interesting. I've had multiple people tell me who are like maybe in their late 40s who went there as kids, because it was around for about 5 years. Multiple people have told me they thought they made it up as a child, because it seems like a hallucination. You go to this place, it's geared for high-end dining on one end, and on the other end, it's like for children's parties. Like there were 2 levels. The lower party was like kids' fare, kind of like hot dogs and stuff, and the top floor would have things like lion steak, which we found out was real lion and real hippopotamus, and they were trying to get elephant trunk on the menu. It's it's really just kind of like a beautiful nightmare. And yeah.
Let's talk about, for people that don't know what a natatorium is, can you explain that?
Yeah, so in Milwaukee in the late 1800s had some of the first public pools in America. I recently found out that, so the reason these pools are created was like publicly, to create public sanitation. So when you didn't have indoor plumbing in the 1800s, you'd pay like, a little bit of money, you go take a bath or a shower at the natatorium. And I think they're the first of their kind constructed in the US. So Milwaukee was like very kind of forward reaching in that regard. The other reason they were constructed is because during the summer months, there was kind of a plague in Milwaukee of men exposing themselves to women while bathing in the river and the lake. And there's all these articles about like rich women horrified by like youths posing and exposing themselves while they're on like boat cruises. So these two kind of things came together and created the natatorium system. There were 7 in Milwaukee. Over the years, they turned into swimming pools, and by the 70s, they're almost entirely out of favor. They weren't being maintained. Buildings are very old. They're hard to keep up. And Milwaukee was experiencing urban renewal. People were moving to the suburbs, and the interior of Milwaukee was kind of being cannibalized. So these buildings went up for auction. One of them was sold to John and Margaret Garlick, who were restaurateurs who owned a restaurant called J.J. Garlick's that was in the Catholic Knights building. I believe it's something else, but it's near Marquette. It was on the first floor, and that was a very high-end place, but also garish by their tastes for Milwaukee at the time. So they bought the natatorium for $1 at auction. They hit the dollar reserve, and then they ended up paying $4,000 for it, which is still a steal. And they sunk about $1 million into it in like 1977, 78 money. And it opened in 1979 in the fall with 2 dolphins flown in from North Carolina. The Marine Mammal Protection Act was signed in 1972. Before this, you could just have a dolphin in your backyard. There were functionally no laws stopping you. And there were businesses capturing and selling dolphins for attractions and also for private ownership. So people would have pet dolphins. This isn't very common. I can't imagine the animals live long, but it is a thing that existed. So when the Marine Mammal Protection Act was signed into law by Richard Nixon, suddenly there was all these places around the Gulf Coast that had dolphins that they were grandfathered under the law, and they could lease these animals out. They also had the capability to capture the animals and have them. So under the law, you had to have dolphins to own dolphins, right? So there's kind of a stock of these animals that then came into this like short-lived business situation where a few of these places in Florida, North Carolina, were flying animals in shifts to be rented to places like even malls would have them. And the Natatorium was one of these places. So the first 2 dolphins came from North Carolina.
So I mean, it's crazy what you're saying, and it
doesn't sound real, does it?
So Natatorium, I mean, you can imagine like an old YMCA that's no longer YMCA. This couple bought it, and then they went out and they bought some dolphins, and they more or less put the dolphins in the YMCA pool just to kind of
similar, yeah.
clarify.
So the Natatorium in Milwaukee had the 4th Street Natatorium specifically. There's a pool area in the center, right? Above the pool, there's 2 levels. So these were showers. So there's a lower level and then a top level. The pool's in the center, and they put plexiglass around the entirety of the pool, and then hung these giant hanging like chandeliers that weighed like 2 tons apiece. They were covered in flowers that would raise and lower for the dolphin shows above the pool. They also released 5,000 parakeets initially into the pool area. So people who ate there would just describe like the like overwhelming humidity and like fish smell, that would be coming off of it. And it did not keep well over the years. And it went bankrupt in early 1985 was when it finally closed. So it has like a very short like lifespan. And during this time, 6 dolphins went through it. Second 2 are rentals, and they ended up purchasing the last 2. 1 died in captivity in Milwaukee, and there's kind of a mystery around that. And we're trying to find the mythical location of a dolphin grave that a few people have alluded to. So that's kind of become like the focus of the film at this point. The last dolphin was abandoned in the pool when they went bankrupt. And the trainer, Deborah Pravato, took care of the last dolphin, Scotch and Soda. Scotch died. Soda was taken care of by Deborah, unpaid, and the electricity was cut off to the building, or the power, or something like that. There was like a utility cutoff, and the place was also coal heated. So the pool and the air, everything was coming from the same furnace, and it had to have somebody down there physically shoveling. So if they weren't paying their staff, the dolphins' air temperature was dropping. Debbie wrote to the bankruptcy court while this was all happening. It was all pretty publicized in Milwaukee newspaper at the time. And the judge intervened on behalf of the dolphin. They found a buyer for her. Hot water heaters were brought in, and the city kind of came together to save Soda, and she went to California. I recently found out Soda is alive in Lisbon, Portugal, where she lives currently, and I went to Lisbon to film her. She's 51 years old, which is crazy. So that's not something I saw coming from this thing.
What's the average age of a dolphin?
That's a great question. I do not know. I know they can live to, one has been found to live to 65 in the wild, but like some whales live over 100 years. So, I don't know.
I looked it up the other day. I think it's like 30 or 40 in captivity.
Yeah.
And then like up to 60 in the wild. I could be wrong. So, but it's something like that. Like she's way above, she's way beyond the expiration date of a dolphin in captivity.
And she's like, I don't know. She's kind of a somewhat famous dolphin. There's like a place called Setabase, which is like a wiki for like marine mammals in captivity. And they get they track everything, but they got all their information from the federal agency APHIS, which published kind of master spreadsheets, because they were getting so many freedom of information requests over the years of all the movements of marine mammals. So you can like literally go through and see like where everyone went, and like who died of what when they were captured. It's really interesting and like sad kind of aspect to the past, and like dolphin shows still happen. I think like there's a movement now to move dolphins in captivity towards sea pens where they're like connected to the ocean. They can come and go possibly, or at least have fresh ocean water come in and have like some semblance of being in the wild, which is probably a more ethical way to move. But researching like dolphin captivity over the course of this has just been like just wild. There's people who are pro captivity, have their sets of arguments, and then there's anti-captivity, which is, the truth is probably somewhere between. Like, you can't just let the animals go, that are in captivity. They will probably die if they're released. However, they're going to spend the rest of their lives in like a tank situation where there's not a lot of stimulation. And these are very intelligent animals that cross a lot of open ocean, a day. And to have that reduced to a swimming pool, especially in the Natatorium's case, is pretty horrific to think about. So at this point in the edit, we're trying to explore like how the dolphins would have felt kind of trapped in this environment.
Well, it's important to point out as well that pool wasn't that deep in the Natatorium, so that they weren't really able to exercise at all.
Yeah, they couldn't. So it's extremely shallow for the most part. So it was built for bathing, right? It's not really a swimming pool. So the deepest point was where the trainer stage was on one end, and I want to say it was like 12 feet, but like that area was very small. It would taper down to like 3 feet quickly. And in most of the photos we have of the animals there, if they're not interacting with people, they're just kind of hanging out in the corner. And some people have mentioned that, they would just look sad and would just bob there kind of lifeless. And,
well, I want to get more into the dolphins a little later, but when you were exploring how you're going to approach researching this, you said you had some research already provided, but there must have been multiple layers that you started peeling off. And how did it feel each time you pulled a layer off? Did it change your view on the overall story?
Absolutely. I've had to re-edit many times and kind of reconceptualize it, because initially we had just a very small sliver of the story, and the research that was available was mostly surface level. This has been like a huge kind of like filmmaking like learning experience for me of just like I've had to become a journalist essentially. You have to chase people down. You have to get people to talk to them. A lot of people have like very valuable bits of information, but they might not think they do. That's so like convincing people that like, no, your story is like actually important. Your experience, or like what this is like a part of a bigger tapestry of something, and that was a piece I was missing. Right? Is like a big aspect of this project. If you're interested in making something like this, or a project like this, like start digging and like go on Facebook and start asking people, especially if it's like the older generation. They're on Facebook and like a lot of them want to talk to you, and they'll give you answers. Like if you find a name, like track down that name, make some calls, like see what happens.
Some of the stuff you heard must have been pretty crazy. How do you take stuff with a grain of salt when somebody's telling you a story, especially that far removed from the event? Or there's some stuff just sounds so over the top.
The crazy thing with the Natatorium is like the really crazy stuff is not made up. So like people start verifying via, it's like I've heard this from 4 people, and like the detail might be slightly different, but like no, it happened. Like one of the wilder stories is like Sam Sagwin is a drag queen from northern Wisconsin, and Sam was like the founding mother of like the Milwaukee drag circuit in the 70s. Sam had a drag show at the Natatorium where they had drag queens on stage, the dolphin trainer stage, and it collapsed mid-show into the pool. There was a little person named Steve Vento who's still alive. Steve was like a kind of a showman guy. He was when he was a teenager, he played the original Hamburglar from like Ronald McDonald Land. He was Tattoo from Fantasy Island at the Natatorium. It's just kind of like the Garlicks had this like really garish like sense of entertainment, and they're showmen. And they were at one point trying to buy a Pabst Mansion when it was like the city didn't know what to do with it. And I think like a nonprofit formed specifically to stop the Garlicks from buying the Pabst Mansion and turning it into a restaurant. It's absolutely wild. And Alex has been making this like incredible score. So it's been a really interesting, like to what you said, like in the layers of it, like as I find things, I come up with like visual ideas and like edits, and then we'll be like, we want to hit this tone, and then Alex provides like a score to like play off that, and it kind of goes back and forth. And it's like a really cool way to do something. It's really cool that it's unfolded over, like 3 years at this point, like into what it is now, from something very small into like something very sprawling. And it's almost harder to make a small thing when you don't have the whole picture. Now that I have the whole picture, it's like, oh, there's a beginning, middle, and end to this,
So I've heard some of the music that you've been working on for the film. And how did you go about writing? Did Oliver give you any guidance as far as, I want this to sound, a little creepy? Or what was his guidance to you, and how did you come up with
Not a ton of guidance. I mean, you'd send me like reference tracks, kind of, but it would be like, you know, kind of all over the place. And I've like, it kind of feels like the harder you try to chase like a temp track or a reference track, like the worse it'll probably end up being. So it's more like if you follow, I think that the idea was like, because a lot of like the stuff that we've done so far has been a lot of like grand, you know, over the top orchestral stuff, which I think was by design because that feels kind of like what the vision for the Natatorium was at its best. You know, like the idealized.
They had gold-plated silverware and cups when they opened. The staff stole most of it. Yeah. By the end of it, they had almost nothing in the place. It was like all taken out and they're out of food. So they went from having lion meat on gold plates to not having enough flatware or ingredients to make anything at the end when no one was coming in at the end. And the novelty wore off. But yeah, the grandiosity.
Yeah, that's kind of like the two. I'm trying to like approach it with the two sides of that coin situation musically too. Like I did these, you know, there's like this big, I guess it's kind of like a Vaughan Williams orchestral ripoff thing, and then there's the one that's another like big layered percussion symphonic thing. And like you know, then there's like a Viennese waltz that I have written for it too. But then I think, you know, as the movie changes and like the veneer of grandiosity fades and you realize it's just kind of like a torture chamber for dolphins that's falling apart. You know, I think the music should change for that too. So there's like, I've been starting to work on some cues that are more in that world too.
And what was, Sam, did you have any input on the music at all?
Alex would send me stuff and I'd say, sounds good. Or
this isn't good.
Yeah.
Throw this away.
Yeah. I guess just being in the studio, like, together, because we normally do a lot of our projects together, and just
Sam's been helping with sound design. He's great, and a lot of this was captured like kind of like, I guess, like ad hoc. Like I'll do an interview with somebody and like they might call me through Facebook audio and it might be on like a jitterbug phone or something, like, and it might be terrible audio. So we're trying to do our best with Sam's help to like clean up everything and make it like uniform, where like you can have all these different like sources of varying quality, but it's kind of part of the journey of collecting everything unified against Alex's music and the sound. So we want this really like kind of like whole high end feeling thing that holds like kind of like a grab box of wherever we've been able to get stuff.
So I know Oliver was sucked into this story. Alex and Sam, have you guys found yourself immersed in just thoughts of what this place might have been if you were, you know, able to go to it back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of the interviews, you know, with in various states of editing and all of that, and like the thing that has struck me is how like weird and clear people's memories are of specific things. Like I have like a terrible memory of my own life. Like I can't even imagine having to recall 1977, where I worked as like a line cook. Yeah, that's crazy to me. But like they have these like very clear, very weird memories that don't feel like they should be real. And yeah, I don't know. Of course, it's like a weird, fascinating Wisconsin P.T. Barnum nightmare thing.
Yeah.
So, like...
Another fun Natatorium thing is that Dale Krueger claims to be the co-creator of the idea of a pickle and a Bloody Mary. Also a shrimp and a Bloody Mary. I can't quite verify or disprove this. So Milwaukee might have claim to that, which would be pretty cool at the Natatorium. That's a weird story.
I think we should just say it's true. Like
I think we say it's
there's
true.
Like,
yeah.
This is partially built on the idea of like tall tales being valid too.
I mean, yeah, like, no, it's 100% true. And John Garlick was kind of like a big man from a tall tale. Like he was like a 6'3" guy with a big booming voice that would do wild things. And
yeah, I mean, I'd say like every month or two, like I'll get a text from Oliver saying, "You're never gonna believe what I just found out."
Yeah,
and it's always
nice.
like.
It seems like that's part of the fun of this movie. We've got a call on the line. What's your What's your question?
No question. Oliver asked me to call in
Hey,
today.
Dale,
My
how
name's
you
Dale
doing?
Krueger.
Oh, Dale.
I'm good.
Okay.
I was the head chef at the Natatorium during that era.
What's your thoughts on this film being made?
Yeah, Dale.
I think it's awesome. I found out more information from Oliver and my son-in-law, John Anusa, through the process of investigating this that I never knew. You know, I never knew there were 6 dolphins. I never knew what happened to them. I had left in the late 70s. Many disagreements with John and Margaret, but I was there for a good stint. I actually worked at J. Garlicks, which was a restaurant on 11th and Wells, and then John decided to buy the Natatorium on a sealed bid, and I just thought it was crazy when he asked me to come over and look and see what was going on, and you know, he had artists painting plexiglass windows and hanging them, and I just thought, this is insane. And then he told me his plan. I mean, this guy was an entrepreneur from the day one.
I was going to ask Oliver.
I found out more about it.
I was going to ask Oliver this.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask Oliver this. This is a good question for you. What kind of personality? Like, was he a friendly guy, or was he a little intimidating? Because somebody that has this big of a vision, was he laser focused on what he wanted?
Oh no, he was all over the board, but he knew what he wanted and he got what he wanted. He didn't ever hold back on anything. He was a fair man, but he was a firm man. Give you an example. I was carrying a case of toilet paper to the ladies' room, and he saw me and he said, "Dale," and I said, "What?" He said, "Come here." I said, "I got to get this to the ladies' room." He goes, "That's not your job. Get someone else. Sit down. Have a drink." I said, "We're in the middle of lunch hour, John." He goes, "I don't care. Sit down." I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "Margaret, does Dale deserve a raise?" "Well, yeah, I guess so." "Margaret, how much? $5? Yeah, sure."
It's a pretty good.
Nah, let's make it 10. Dale, would you accept 15? I said, "I'll accept 15 if I can get back to work." He said, "Fine, get out of my face." So yeah, they were quite the couple.
So, as far as talking to Oliver, do you remember the first time Oliver reached out regarding taking over?
Yeah, I have a cottage in Door County, and my son-in-law set it up for Oliver to meet out there because it was closer for him. And I found Oliver to be quite interesting, to say the least.
That's right.
What was your first impressions of Oliver, Dale?
But some of the stories, I mean, when they say that, people remember it so clearly. And I heard you guys talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
It's like my back doorbell rang. It was a delivery, and I said, "What do you have?" And the guy said, "Bear." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Bear." I said, "Hang on a second." Ring, 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 ring. John and Margaret were always down in the bar with a pile of, never mind. And
There is a huge drug culture at the Natatorium.
I said, "John, there's a guy here that says he's got bear meat for me." And John goes, "Yeah, just accept
I think
it."
it's true.
I'm like, "What? We don't have the internet, dude. What am I going to do with it?" He goes, "You'll figure it out." So the guy starts bringing it in pickle buckets, and I opened the cover. And it was pink milk, meat floating in pink milk. And I said, what is this?" The guy's like, "Oh, that takes the gaminess out of it." Oh, I missed part of the story. So I asked John, "Where did you get bear meat?" He said, "A guy had it in the paper up north." He goes, "I called him up. I asked him how many pounds did he have, and the guy said, 'Hang on, I'll look outside. I got to chain to a tree.'"
Make one virgin, I think.
The guys here are making.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
You were talking about the birds, Dale? The dolphins and the birds?
Oh, tip of the iceberg, I said. But yeah, the birds, he decides to drive down to Chicago and get 3,000 canaries or parakeets or whatever the hell they were, and they got loose in the van, and they were flying all around him, and I didn't know anything about it. The next morning, he released them into the pool area, and the next morning I came in, and they were all floating, and the dolphins were flipping them around. And I guess John didn't do his research that they can't live in saltwater atmosphere. So I called John at home and I said, John, your birds are dead. He goes, God damn it. So then he says, well, we'll figure something out. So then he sourced toucans and macaws and parrots, you name it. And he just put them all around the restaurant on little stands with a chain on their leg. And I thought, wow, the animal rights people are going to love this.
How did
I remember feeding the toucan grapes. I would just throw them up in the air, and he would just snatch them right out of the air.
You talk about your brother and the lovebirds. Do you remember that one?
My brother?
Yeah, Margaret's lovebirds got like loose.
Are you talking about my brother Paul?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where he used to shovel the coal.
Yeah, so your brother actually shoveled the coal in the natatorium, like in the furnace.
Yeah, he was a furnace stalker, but he also did maintenance there. And when the birds Margaret's lovebirds got away, they flew at the very top of the skylight.
Yeah,
and I mean that was up there on a catwalk. So she told Paul, she said, "You go up there and get my birds back." And he's like, "Screw you." He's like, "I'm not going up there." Well, he did end up going up there, and then they had him mesh off that area so that the birds couldn't get that high again or something like that. But
Dale, how did you cook lion and hippopotamus meat? Do you remember what you did?
What's that?
How would you prepare lion steak?
I just got creative with stuff, trying to kill the gaminess with a lot of garlic and onions and things like that.
So we found out the lion was...
Larry the Legend. Larry the Legend was out of the what?
We found out where the lion meat came from. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you did. Some butcher in Chicago or something like that.
Yeah. Tell us about Larry the Legend and his menu.
Oh, Larry the Legend was a radio personality here back in that era.
Yeah.
And he had like $100 a plate dinner fundraiser, and that's when all that game food came in. You know, hippopotamus, lion, ostrich, rattlesnake.
Did that stuff actually taste good, Dale, or was it?
Did you try it, Dale?
No. but all those rich people were like, "Oh, this is delicious," you know, and you're like, "What's wrong with you? Tastes like stinky fish," you know. It tastes like everything smelled gamey and fishy, and you know, I don't know.
So was there a lot of
buffalo? The buffalo wasn't bad.
Buffalo's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But buffalo's like a cow.
Yeah, it's
you know?
It's a lean cow.
There's a reason why people don't eat these animals, you know? Like, outside of the endangered thing and all of that. But like,
yeah, I think.
Dale, is there one part of this film that you're really looking forward to viewing when it comes out? Are you nervous about anything that you might have said that might be in the film?
No, I'm not. No, not at all. I'm 68 years old. I give a shit. You know. I look forward. I look forward to it. I tell everybody I know. I'm like, I'm going to be talking on this radio station in Appleton today, and it's all about the Natatorium. And every time I go into a restaurant, I pull up. There's an old advertisement that actually I think Ollie found for me, and I show them, and they're like, "What?" Because everybody's too young to remember, you know. But then when you talk to other people, older people, they're like, "Oh, I went there. I took my daughter there for her 21st birthday, and you know, I remember blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Dale, can you tell us about the time you swam with the dolphins?
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
It was about 100 degrees in the kitchen that day, maybe more. And so I stuck my head into the dining room with my little chef's hat, my checkered pants, and tried to get a little bit of their air conditioning. And the trainer yells to me, "Ladies and gentlemen, that's our chef, Dale Krueger." And they're like, and he's like, "Hey, Dale, why don't you come on down here for a minute?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "Everybody, come on." So I go down, and he says, "You want to swim with the dolphins?" But I mean, I brought my children there and swam with the dolphins, not when it was open. Anyways.
As you do.
So I proceed to take the stuff out of my pockets and take off my chef's jacket and jumped in with them. And then I was kind of in the middle of the pool, and he went tweet, tweet, tweet. And they just kind of went around in circles and created a whirlpool, and I was kind of spinning around. And then he went tweet, tweet, tweet. And then they stopped, and they were down at the other end of the pool, and I was in the deep end, kind of just treading water. And he goes, tweet, 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 tweet. And they both came at me at about 80 miles an hour and then stopped right at my crotch. And everybody's like, "Whoa." But I mean, those things could stop on a dime, He just told them what to do, and they did it. It was crazy.
What a story. I can't wait to see this film.
Dale, do you have the pickle? Want to tell us about the creation of the pickle and a Bloody Mary and the shrimp?
Oh, so
Yeah.
back in the day, Mikey Dikey was the bartender at J.J. Garlick.
It's the first time I'm hearing his last name.
Well, I called him Mikey Dikey, but he was an Italian ladies' man, good looking guy, and he came in the kitchen one day and he goes, "Hey man, what can I put in a Bloody Mary that's different?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Celery, Brussels sprouts?" He goes, "No, something different." And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of like cocktail sauce, so why don't we put a shrimp in it?" He goes, "Awesome." So I boiled him up some shrimp, and he would keep them on ice in the bar and put those on your Bloody Mary. That's where that came from. So I could take credit for that.
Well, we're having a Bloody Mary.
Getting off on.
We got the shrimp and the pickle.
Yeah, I heard you guys are making some Bloody Marys. Yeah. I'm on my way.
Get driving to Appleton. Are you in Door County right now, or are you in Milwaukee?
Excuse me?
Are you in Door County or Milwaukee right now?
No, I'm in Shorewood.
Yeah,
I live in Shorewood.
Yeah, in Shorewood.
When you talked about Sammy, I got a story about him or her. He was our either our maitre d' or our hostess or whatever he decided that night. But we had a Christmas party at a place called Oliver's, which was a dance club downtown.
Mm.
And I got there in my I don't know what you call it, leisure suit, my Nunbush City Limits, and my big afro. And I get to the bar, and I see this beautiful woman, brunette, sitting at the bar, and she reaches into her purse. She pulls out a cigarette case, and she's going to have a cigarette. That's when you can smoke in a bar. And I'm looking all over for matches, and I finally find them. And I light her cigarette, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Thanks, Dale." I'm Sammy, is that you?
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm surprised I still got my memory,
Yeah, man, it's cracking.
I think it's great that people like Oliver are out there preserving this and digging up and preserving it. And really appreciate you taking the time to call in today, Dale. I'm looking forward to seeing the film.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks,
Dale.
I as well. All right, gentlemen, carry on with those Bloody Marys.
Will do, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers. Captain Dale.
That was great. That was great. And to actually talk to people like Dale that were there, you're doing the story, then you get to talk to people. It must bring it to life just some of the stuff that you're finding.
It's really wild to repeat things or tell people about things who have a slice of this too, because then they experience what I'm experiencing, right? Because like most people don't have a full story of any part of their life, and I can be like, well, then this happened. Well, you were there because this person said this thing and then this thing, and you can kind of like triangulate this whole picture. It's weird. It's like I'm connecting the dots through like a cluster of people, and yeah, it really is exciting to dig stuff up. Like, it's like the most fun part of this. Like, doing the technical work and like the art angle of it is like not quite as immediately rewarding as like cold calling a bunch of numbers and then like somehow one of them picks up, or maybe I like accidentally called a veterinary office, but that's the right place the person works at. The number was just listed, and then I get passed to like, it's like, 1 minute, she'll be right here. I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting this to work, And then I'd be like, do you remember the Natatorium? They're like, how do you know about the Natatorium?
So how do you decide what to keep in the film? And there's a little thing in the back. How do you decide what to keep in the film and what to take out? Because obviously you're probably getting so much material now.
That's going to be the big, we're in the process of shaving it down into something like palatable, I would say, because it goes in so many directions. And by its nature, that's kind of...
What's your target length?
We're trying to do 90 minutes. And I think there's probably more, there's definitely more to go off of if it could be like longer, but I think I like to keep things short and sweet, and I'm trying to shave it down into a tall tale from Wisconsin, a true tall tale that is within 90 minutes. You can put it on and be like, I want to know more about that. And then, maybe we'll write a book down the road. Maybe we're going to have a podcast rolling out next month that kind of teases.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Bit. Yeah. I have collected kind of like things that are adjacent to the Natatorium. Like on the kind of history of marine mammals and captivity, which is also full of other stories that are as garishly tall tale as this is, and they're smaller but not directly related. So I'm going to start teasing out like a brief history of cetaceans and captivity. That will lead up to like a Natatorium podcast where I'll start like teasing out little bits of interviews. We're expecting a trailer to be out early next year, and then hopefully next fall. And we're also hoping Alex might be doing some live orchestral performance with the score. We'll see how that comes together. It's a lot of cool, exciting things. And the other thing we're trying to do right now, we're trying to do ground penetrating radar of a possible dolphin grave. So we have Lawrence University involved with this, the archaeology department. They would like to do a field class to the location as like a recent archaeology thing. Their ground penetrating radar is out of commission and needs to go to Germany or something to be repaired, which is expensive. If anyone has access to a commercial ground penetrating radar unit and would like to work with Lawrence University and us on finding a piece of Wisconsin history, hit us up. So,
we did try on our own one time.
We did try to dig the dolphin up on our own with augers. And when I talked to the archaeologist, I'm like, this probably sounds bad. And he's like, to be honest, that's what I would have done. I'm like, okay. So we know the area it's in. It's just deeper than we are willing to remove Earth to get to.
We did find a cat.
Dead cat.
We did find a dead cat.
Which was
it was in a bag.
If you're going to bury an animal in your
let the Earth take it.
Make sure it's in a vessel that oxygen can get in.
Yeah, you don't want to seal that thing off for microorganisms. That's no good.
It was disgusting.
So how did you find the location of the dolphin, or the suspected location?
3 people told me various angles of this with names attached to it, and then a woman I spoke to who is related to the family told me a tall tale that I think is verifiably true via other people I've talked to as I chased it down, about a dolphin being buried in her grandpa's backyard. And then Sam Sagwin, who Dale mentioned earlier, said early on, Sam started the whole mystery dolphin thing. Sam was the second person I interviewed after Dale, and Sam nonchalantly said, "Oh, there's a dolphin buried behind." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "What?" And then like Sam didn't want to. Sam thought that was a minor detail in the story, and I was just like, "What do you got, Sam? I need to know about this dolphin." Yeah, he's like, "Well, that's what I had heard many years ago, that they buried that dolphin behind." Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, "Oh."
There's been a couple locations.
There's a couple, couple locations, but we narrowed down what we think is the actual location. And the family seems to have confirmed that indirectly. So our idea is that we would like to exhume the corpse of Scotch the dolphin and return him to the Gulf of Mexico from the waters in which he was captured. He was caught off Destin in mid-70s. So we want to return him to the shores of the Emerald Coast and give him a proper dolphin burial at sea with the homeowners and members of the Garlick family as kind of a redemption thing for humanity to put him back where he belongs and maybe lift the curse he's put on Milwaukee all these years.
Yeah. I don't know if you've been there. But something's off.
I mean, it's doing great, but something's off.
Clearly cursed.
Clearly cursed.
Has the Garlick family been pretty supportive of this film?
I've been talking to the children of the Garlick family. Older members are pretty cautious to talk.
I was going to say, because it could go either way as far as
Yeah.
their opinion of how you're portraying it.
It's a tall tale, and I think they're trying to play it as such with the younger family members. It's just like, I'm trying to frame this whole thing as like a great American like story, because it kind of like, it's like if you separate this from like recent history, if you're just like reading it about it as a kid, it's like a fable, or it has like a clear arc to it. It's kind of like an Icarus story of like trying something crazy and it doesn't work, and then the fallout from that, and what can we learn from that?
It's got kind of like House on the Rock energy.
It's very Wisconsin in that way.
In a way too, that it's just like it can only happen here.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well,
There's so many weird little details. Talking to Dale, like, that's a pretty good teaser, I think, for a lot of the tone of
a lot
the
of, and it's like,
stories
I've
all.
talked to many Dales. It's like there's a lot of them out there. There's only one Dale, but there's a whole generation of Milwaukee people, that like kind of like this was normal to them, like and the whole world that created, like, this wasn't created in a vacuum. This was like what kind of like 70s cocaine Milwaukee was like, It was a city trying to reinvent itself after like industrial collapse. And there's a lot of space to do it in, Unlike now, real estate was apparently free, and you could just like kind of do whatever if you had a little capital.
It's just like he went all out. I mean, you mentioned the gold silverware,
Yeah.
which gold silverware.
He literally
expensive.
He spared no expense. He says this. It's a Jurassic Park line. There's an interview where he's like, "We've spared no expense." Da, 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 da. And there's all these interviews he's doing early on where he's like hyping up. He's like reciting things half remembered from a book on dolphins he read that cites like Greek mythology, where he's like, the ancient Greeks believed they had the souls of men trapped inside. It's like, so you put him in a pool in Milwaukee,
Well, he did. Like, he was driving people in limos to bring them.
He had
there,
a
wasn't he?
limo. You could get a free limo pickup for a while to take you to the Natatorium.
So I mean, his vision must have been grandeur.
Ian Garlick, his son, talks about this a lot. Of like, he would have the limo it would pick him up from school. There's also a Fox Valley tie-in. The company was the company that owned the Natatorium was G&G Associates, or LTD. Is this Garlick and Gehring, and the Gehring family was from Freedom, and then ended up in Milwaukee like after the 50s. Mark Gehring was the other owner. He's passed away, but I've been trying to get in contact with the kids. Haven't been able to do that yet. If you're hearing this, reach out to me. But the nephew of the Gehring family got back to me and confirmed that was them. He lives in Green Bay in Vince Lombardi's house. So there's just all these like absurd Wisconsin things just keep happening. And I just want to add this to like the tapestry of the state of Wisconsin.
The Vince Lombardi house that was like featured in the recent ESPN documentary.
He brought that up. That's his.
And Peyton Manning and Brett Favre.
I was like, can I use this interview?
Some beers in the basement.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Guy Fieri was there. He brought that up too.
It's crazy.
He's like, I'll have to talk to my entertainment lawyer if you can. I'm like, I don't know, I didn't this interview that much.
So the film, hour and a half. You said about 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's sounds like it's gonna focus a lot on the Dolphins versus some of the over the top. I mean, obviously, going to set the table as far as.
We're going to start with over the top stuff, and then tapers off to the reality of dolphins in the tank, and then the rescue of Soda in the pool. Soda is also, you cannot have a dolphin alone in a pool under federal regulations, so they got 2 sea lions to keep her company in the last year. That wasn't doing it. Business really tapered off, and I think the novelty wore off. There's only, if you're not a kid, there's only so many times. This place was like crazy expensive. Like, this place was like $80 plates on the upper level in the early 80s. Like, that's not cheap, and if the food, there were also a couple bad reviews they got hit with. John Garlick tried to sue the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel to stop a review from coming out in the early 80s unsuccessfully, and was torpedoed by reviews of J.J. Garlick's and the Natatorium. But I think it was like a mixture of like substance abuse habits, poor money, and just like over the top, not planning and not being able to sustain the business they created. The building was demolished in 1992. I have footage that was shot right before it was torn down. All the windows are knocked out. the pool's empty, and it's now a park right by the highway in Walker's Point. And somehow, I would like to somehow get like some bronze statue, If we get a bronze Fonz, I don't care about that. I love Henry Winkler, but like we need some dolphins, like in Milwaukee. So if anyone wants to bankroll, some dolphin memoriam.
Or our movie.
Or a movie. We would take. We would like to be paid.
Frankly, those statues can wait.
No, it's statue first production. Okay. We're going to take the backseat.
Eric Arthno, who I know we saw him a couple days ago, he said, "This is so awesome, guys. Congrats on all the aspects of all this project. It's so cool seeing this all come together."
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks.
Yeah, are you getting a lot of people I didn't know you were working on this film that are starting to find out about it and reach out to you to?
Yes, slowly. I think some people, there's kind of been a broad awareness. But
you said 2 years you've been working on it,
3 years.
3 years.
No one knows what the hell I'm talking about. So like they kind of need to see, I'll be like, dolphin, and it's like, it sounds made up. So like, I think even my own family has no idea what I've been doing. I've been finding out like friends of close family worked at the Natatorium or had some relation with the Garlicks. And I'm like, how has this not come up before? It's just, it's crazy. So yeah, people have been reaching out and people seem excited about it, and I hope I can deliver on that.
You do a lot with animation. Mm-hmm. How much is animation going to play a part in this?
Quite a bit, because it's a lot of audio interviews. This last year, we've been collecting like a sizable chunk of video interviews, but it's a lot of it is animated. So we're building. I've spent a few years doing this. I've found every photo I can in the Natatorium. I've done kind of projection mapping to trace the angles of the building, use satellite photos, kind of get the layout and the measurements, and we have a nearly anatomically correct to scale building in 3D. So we're going to try to shoot a lot in there digitally, and the building itself is a huge character. Bruce Marquardt, who is a trainer there, talks about looking up. There's a skylights at the top of the Natatorium, and he talks about like when it was cold outside in the winter, the Natatorium was so warm that water vapor would go up to the skylights, and the skylights were cold, so they'd go up and then form into snow crystals and then fall down over the pool and then melt into rain. So we're trying to create all these kind of like beautiful atmospheric moments of this place, and also have kind of the grandiosity decay into what it became, which ultimately is a fish tank for dolphins that it didn't work out too great for the dolphins. And they've met so many characters through this. George Deisko was one of the first trainers there. He worked for Siegfried and Roy almost immediately after, until they passed away and ended the shows a few years ago. So it's just people have crazy careers coming out of the Natatorium. It's a collection of really interesting people, and it was a kind of a focal point for like it employed a lot of LGBTQ people in the Milwaukee area, and John Garlick just kind of was an eccentric who collected eccentrics. So he just kind of snowballed all these people together into this giant chaotic thing. And we're trying to document that to the best of our ability and illustrate it so it's like remembered in some way.
Well, didn't John hire, after the one trainer left, didn't he hire some high schoolers to learn how to train dolphins?
Bruce Marquardt, I think, was like 19 at the time. He was like a waiter at the Natatorium. And Bruce told me a story where, I should have Bruce call in. Bruce told me a story where he told John, like the actual dolphin trainer quit. And Bruce had worked with her a bit. And Bruce was like, John, I know someone else who's perfectly qualified to train dolphins. And he said, I'll bring him in tomorrow at like 8 a.m. And Bruce just like walks in at 8 a.m. with his arms out. And John's like, where's the trainer? And Bruce is like, it's me, I'm the trainer. So like Bruce like became kind of like a self-taught dolphin trainer, and he told me he would like research Jacques Cousteau books at the library on dolphin care and training. And then Bruce was like, I think just kind of barely keeping it afloat and was getting too stressed out because he was the only dolphin person for 2 animals. So then he hired, he's trained like Mark Ellis, who was like actually a teenager, who was referred to John Garlick because his mom worked at the urologist that John Garlick was going to for something. So like so he's like, my son likes animals. So then Mark Ellis was hired. And during this point, there's like the Scotch and soda were the same age, but dolphins age differently into sexual maturity. So Scotch, the males come into sexual maturity faster than the females. So Scotch was trying to mate with soda. She was not having it. And he would like hump a pool buoy they had on this, like a boat buoy they had tied to the side of the pool in front of kids. So this became a problem where John Garlick would be like, you can't have him doing that. And like yelling at like Mark Ellis. He's like, I don't know, what can I do? And so they took the buoy away. And then Scotch became very aggressive and would attack Mark Ellis like during shows and like bite him and like ram him with his rostrum, because they do like a trick where he'd have a fish in his mouth, you know, for the audience, and Scotch would just bash him, you know, like during the. So they called, as Mark said, he called SeaWorld or wherever it came from, which is the Gulf area in Florida, and they're like, you got to give him his toy back. so they put the toy behind a hanging plant they lowered in the corner, and Scotch would just go back there and like go at the toy. But like, that's not a good life for, you know, like, that's his only entertainment. Like, it's just miserable for these poor animals. Yeah.
The dolphin horniness in Captivity is certainly like a factor.
Oh yeah.
That
Pam
people bring up a lot.
Pam Finkelberry, who I talked to, referred to herself as they would call her the kinky dolphin lady, because she wasn't bothered when they'd have erections in the pool. She was like, they're very horny animals, and I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's crazy. Like, it's all just this wild tapestry of people and animals, and like, yeah.
You know, an important thing making a movie or a documentary like this, especially one that's taking 3+ years to make. How are you planning on funding this, and are you looking for any funding?
We're going to start seeking funding sources over the next couple of months. It's finally at a point where like we've had a few decks and for the few iterations of the film, and now it's like boiled down to exactly what we want. So now we can try to go after funding sources. So we'll be applying for some film grants. We're applying for some pitch opportunities. We're inquiring with the private sources we have, and I have a entertainment lawyer and producer attached to the project that's going to help us approach some companies, see if we can get a post-production partnership to get this done with.
And is this your first full length?
This is my first full length film, yeah.
That's so, obviously you're probably learning a lot of the, you know, how to go about doing this. Mm-hmm. Is this going to spark your interest to tackle some other Wisconsin folklore after this one's finished?
We talked about our Elvin Clark.
Yeah,
yeah. We won't.
It's another great Wisconsin story, but we won't talk about it.
We won't talk about it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to hear about it now, but
well, we can talk about it.
And it's a ship, a Civil War era schooner that sunk
off Marinette.
Yeah, in Green Bay, in the Green Bay, and it like lost in time, and
in the 70s or 80s,
60s,
where they cranked it up.
Well, there was like, because like Jacques Cousteau was on TV, like adventure diving became very popular.
Yeah.
So there were all these adventure divers in Door County, and so they like, what the hell is this? These guys were down there and they found this ship, and it was this perfectly preserved Civil War schooner called the Alvin Clark. And so they pulled it up. And this guy that found the boat's like, I'm going to be rich, you know, like he just saw like money signs. And so the Smithsonian wanted to get involved to preserve this thing. Like all kinds of like, you know, historical societies wanted to get involved because it had been at the bottom of the ocean for like 100 years. Mm-hmm. So like, that's not something that you can just be like, well, we're going to put it next to the dock and people can come to see it. But something like, you know, like 100,000 people came to Marinette to see it the day that it was revealed. So that's like, imagine 100,000 people in Marinette, like.
And it immediately started decaying because of exposure to oxygen, and then it became this like, people were begging him to like help intervene, and he refused it, and then ended up trying to burn it down for insurance money in the early 90s.
And like
unsuccessfully.
And he was like firing guns at the cops at the end. It's cops and firefighters that were trying to just get in there, and he couldn't even successfully burn it down. It's just like another story of like entrepreneurial hubris and Icarus story, kind of like I'm the man for the job.
The couple that pioneered scuba diving, like in the Great Lakes in Door County, in the '60s, where they started taking like tours out to wrecks they would find, because no one believed these wrecks existed before this. But there's an instance where they would come out to these wrecks, and a boat trailed them after them, like marked the location with a buoy, and then overnight tried to raise one of the ships, and it broke in half. So there was like this weird piracy thing about guys trying to pull ships out of Lake Michigan for whatever reason, with the promise of gold or something, you know, like in their future.
This is again, now it's two films I want to see.
Yeah, I think we should do this next one as a like a feature.
Yeah,
But that needs even more money. But this will be easy. The story's easier here because we have the beginning, middle, and end. Yeah. It ends with him, trying to destroy the boat.
Or it begins with him shooting at cops. His boat burned.
Yeah. It's a story that tells itself easier than this one.
Is there a website I know you've got a Facebook page.
Great Lakes Cetacean Institute .com is our site. That's kind of our little production company that's making the film. And if you have a natatorium story, I don't know how much time we have left. If you want to call in, or you can contact me, Oliver Franklin Anderson on Facebook, and you can email me through Great Lakes Cetacean Institute. If you could post a link to that'd be amazing. And we have Sam built an app on the site that collects releases for interviews, and you can also leave a story. A couple of people have done this directly from your phone or computer on the website, and it'll record and send to me in really nice quality. So it's a very convenient process for like sharing and leaving stories. So if you have a memory, no matter how small or an experience, I want to hear it. A lot of people talk themselves out of sharing what they have. I want to hear it. So it doesn't matter. Just send it to me. A gentleman left me a note saying he was one of the few black swimmers in the 60s at the natatorium. And he learned to swim because of a lifeguard who was also black who served in the Navy. And then he's gone on to teach tons of kids at summer camps how to swim and how special that was for him. I'm like, that's such a positive, great memory to have in my sea of animal nightmares. like that's awesome. So like share whatever you have. I would love it to be part of the grand tapestry of the natatoriums in Milwaukee.
I want to thank all three of you guys for coming in today. This film, since you started rolling out information about it, has really intrigued me, and I can't wait to see it. It's one of those things where I hope I don't die before next year when it comes out. Like when you're waiting for a season.
That's what you're looking forward to?
Well, I mean, it's one of the things I'm looking forward to because you're looking at it being released next year. And have you been thinking as far as where to premiere it? If there's going to be
we're focused on just getting it done, but we'll have premieres in Appleton and Milwaukee for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, film festivals.
I imagine Milwaukee Film will be an easy premiere for it, but we'll also try to have showings in Appleton. We're definitely have a photo op showing up here, which is a great community resource. And they have a large kind of like a church area that's repurposed for photography, arts, and film, and they do great screenings there. So, we'll be showing it around.